All right, good morning, folks. Today is July 12th, 2024. This is Coffee with Community Services, Alta California Regional Center's weekly service provider meeting. My name is John Decker, the Director of Community Services at Alta California Regional Center. Thank you very much for joining us today. I know we were off last week. We had the 4th of July holiday, and so we did not do Coffee with Community Services last week. We're going to do some introductions and go into our agenda for today. First from our team, I see Odelia. Good morning, Odelia. And Melinda, who you will be hearing from in a little bit. And Tom is on. Good morning, Tom. And Alejandra is on. Good morning. And I see Michael too. Good morning, Michael. And Christy is on from Community Services. Let's see, we've got Christine Hobbs, Dana from Client Services. You're going to hear from her in a little bit, along with Melinda talking about our service access and equity. Our employment specialist Carly is on. Good morning. Let's see. I see Beverly and Ethan and Jolana from Community Services. Our intake and clinical director is on as well. Camilla, good morning. And I see Scott on and Jordan as well. Good morning from Community Services, our managers, and Courtney is here. Good morning, Courtney, too, and Christy from our Specialized Services and Supports unit. Let's see, I've got Helen, our manager from Community Services on. Good morning, Helen. And hello there, Jennifer, our director of Client Services. And Jason is on, our lead community services specialist. And I see good morning, Damien and Jessica and Kylie. We got a bunch of our team on this morning. Michelle Duchesne as well, our manager, and our other director of client services, Michelle Johnson. Good morning, folks. For our agenda today, we've got some good follow-up discussions to yesterday's Provider Advisory Committee meeting. But also we have to start, Michael, with the sign of the week. And then we are going to go over to Dana and Melinda to talk about the Service Access and Equity Grant. And then we have, let's see, Melinda is going to go over her survey as well and talk about that. And then Jordan is going to discuss our meeting next week and the CRDP survey that closes very shortly, I believe. And then Scott's going to give us a little HCBS update. We'll check out the ACRC calendar of some of our upcoming events. We have a vendor spotlight I mentioned earlier. Judy's going to be presenting about respite from On My Own. Very excited to hear about that. And we also are going to talk about the provider directory. I don't know if they've landed on calling it the service provider directory or the provider directory, but we are going to discuss that, and we're going to be talking about the rate study implementation briefly, and as it relates to the service provider directory and your quality incentive payments, which are part of the rate study implementation. So, a bunch of things on our agenda today. I'm going to throw it over to Michael to get us started.
One second. Hello, can everybody see me? Okay, great. One second. So the sign of the week is two words. It's it goes along with the summer months, which is swim, and then the other word is sunscreen. So swim, this is how you would sign swim. So you put your hands out like this, and that is the sign for swim. And who loves swimming? Does anybody like to swim? Does anybody enjoy it? Yeah, I love swimming. Yes, I see a lot of hands raised for that. And then the next sign is sunscreen. I just have to expand on that a little bit, that specific sign. So you're going to sign sun. The actual sign for the sun is this sign, sun, sun. And then sun block. So you're going to do like you're blocking something. Like because you're putting on the sunscreen, it's blocking the sun's rays. So all together, let's do sun, then block. And then you wipe it like you're rubbing it on you're putting it on your skin. So sunscreen. So it's the same as block and screen. So I'll send out a video on that. So in regards to Deaf Culture 101, So growing up, people have always asked me, is American Sign Language a universal sign? Is that what everybody signs all over the world? And that's a common question, and the answer is no. There are many different sign languages all over the world. So for example, every language has their own grammar, their own vocabulary, like we do in different countries. So for example, there's British Sign Language, which is BSL. And that's in the UK, they have their own set signs established there. In South Africa, they have a set signs that they do. And then South Korea, which is KSL, Korean Sign Language. I mean, there's different signs all over different languages. So I've gone to all those I've gone to different countries. I've gone to South Korea, I've gone to the Philippines, I've gone to Peru, and I've met many deaf and hard of hearing in those countries, and they sign completely different, and I do not understand what they're saying. So I have to learn their sign language like we have to learn other new languages. It goes the same way. All languages vary, as well as cultures and where they're from, and that's how it is with sign language. It's hard to understand somebody for their language. I have to learn somebody else's sign language as well, that's from another country. So ASL is only signed in America, and other countries sign their own specific signs. So if somebody asks you, is ASL a universal language, and you will know what the answer is, and you will be able to answer that question now. So thank you, everyone.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Michael. All right, I'm going to throw it over to Dana and Melinda next. And you guys are going to be talking about, I believe, the Service Access and Equity Grant opportunity that's coming up.
Yes, thank you, John. So just giving you guys a little bit of background, in acknowledgement of DDS's commitment to use the lens of cultural and linguistic competence to focus on disrupting social injustice and racial inequities within the developmental services system, in combination with the regional center's annual POS data, which reflects disparities based on race, ethnicity, and language. In 2021, California legislation codified into law under Section 4511.1 of the Lanterman supporting service access and equity for persons with developmental disabilities and their families. So what does that mean for you, right? It is for this reason that the Service Access Equity Grant has been developed, and DDS is now accepting 2024-25 applications from community-based organizations and regional centers. It should be noted that on an annual basis, it's across California, so it's awarded up to $11 million across community-based organizations and regional centers. The proposals are due by August 9th at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and the system that they use is called GrantVantage. So if you're still trying to figure out ideas and you feel like you need a little bit of further development with those ideas, myself and cultural diversity specialist Shamir Griffin are available to assist you further. So I just want to,
Hey,
before,
now, and Dana, people
yes,
have seen you in these meetings for a really long time as a client services manager. But
yes.
what do you have to do with, and people have seen Shamir, but what do you guys have to do with each other now?
Oh, geez. Well, Shamir is now operating as cultural diversity specialist under me. So I am the client services manager for our enhanced service coordination unit. And we actually serve on a 1 to 40 caseload for clients meeting their cultural, ethnic, and linguistic needs. So my unit in particular services Russian, Punjabi, Hmong, African American, and Spanish clients, helping them to access those POS dollars while teaching them about our regional center system. So that is me in a nutshell. And
Thank you. I appreciate that update for everyone because you've been again part of this group since we started these meetings, but now
yes,
you have an expanded role and different responsibilities. And some of you have reached out to me related to service access and equity grants, and I am not the expert in this area. I really would encourage you to take Dana's offer up that she just made to reach out to her, reach out to Shamir, maybe send an email to both of them. You're certainly welcome to CC me. I'm happy to give ideas and talk about how I feel things fit with some of you that are service providers, but these are our experts. All right, I'll throw it back to you, Dana.
Thank you, John. So really quick before I jump over to Melinda, I will share my screen. Hopefully, if you can confirm that you see it.
Looks perfect.
Okay, so on the DDS website, you will notice this tab that mentions initiatives. So as soon as it wakes up, you go over to the initiatives area. And then that was Service Access Equity Program. So then you click on Service Access Equity Grant. And then you will notice all of the description and outline of the Service Access Equity. And you'll notice, like I mentioned before, the $11 million and you will lead to regional centers and community-based organizations. You will see the grant structure, grant guidelines, and if you click on the grant guidelines, you'll notice we have those targeted languages again. You click on fiscal year 2024-25. And that's where you'll get the description of how to access and submit your proposals. So I will turn it over to Melinda and thank you guys for your time.
Hi, everyone. Let me share my screen really quick here while I also explain a couple more things just to branch off of Dana, and then I will jump over. Let me find the share my screen. Here is my share my screen button. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Looks good.
Awesome. So as Dana had just said, we do have the Service Equity Grant. And in support of her, there are a lot of areas in which you as a service provider can apply for this grant and use it. We have some vendors already who are teaming up with each other who have notified me. And if they care to make themselves known in this meeting, they can. But for the disclosure, I'll be quiet about it. But they are partnering up with some other vendors, and they are discussing how they can have a grant, and then I believe they're applying for it. There are a lot of areas in which you can apply for this grant, and I'll just get through the bulk of it really quick. Basically, this is going to go down to, if I can find it, accessing the deaf and hard of hearing, which is what I specialize in here. It accesses also other languages and equity. So if you need funds to support the deaf and hard of hearing clients in your program that you so desperately want to bring on, this is a really good resource. And that's why I am on that stand today, because we have many of you contacting me and saying, how do I get money? How do I propose? Where's the grant money for it? All of these different things. And beyond the POS stuff that we've discussed here, this document here, the guidelines grant document, will describe where you can put your money into. And I am having, here we go. So you can have it for cultural and linguistic competent services to make or cultivate meaning engagement to increase access culturally and linguistically across the gamut of the clients you serve. For an example, the deaf and hard of hearing. Also early start. So if you are an early start provider and you have the little ones, you can apply for grant funding there. And then navigation to support families, which is person-centered assistance and or peer-to-peer support to self-advocates to assist in assessing information. But it's not limited to regional center services, geriatric services, transition activities, mental and emotional support. So here are just a few things that y'all can apply for within this grant and why it's important to do so. And then my next topic I'm talking about is
Well, real quickly, Melinda, before we move on to the next topic, does
okay.
anyone have any immediate, any questions that they want to ask right now in this meeting about the Service Access and Equity Grant while we have Dana and Melinda here? And we can check the chat to see if there's anything in there. The links are in the chat. All right, we're moving on.
Melinda, did you put that link for what you were just sharing in the chat as well?
It's already in the chat, yes.
Perfect,
Dana
thank you.
Beanie. Yep. And then the next beautiful thing I'm going to share with you is our survey. And I will put a link for this in the chat in a moment. This is our Deaf and Hard of Hearing quarterly collaboration interest survey. So it has been proposed to me that our vendors, our deaf and hard of hearing vendors, would like to meet quarterly at least, if not more, like bi-monthly, to discuss all of the things that is deaf and hard of hearing, how to serve it, how to serve them, how to find resources, other partners in the area, etc. However, those are things that we talk about at forums. So this meeting is designed to be a more focused meeting, and every time we meet, there will be a topic we will discuss. It will not be a free-for-all. It will not be a meeting where we sit down and resolute our issues with each other. It's not that kind of meeting. It's a meeting where we can all get together and seriously talk about what's going on, what barriers are we experiencing, how can we support each other. And this is an in-person opportunity for vendors to come together and say, hey, I have, for an example, I have clients that need to be put somewhere because as you all know, the regional center has a waiting list, and we are waiting for more vendors to accept our deaf and hard of hearing clients. But perhaps you have a wonder as to how to best accommodate, or now you have a client and you're trying to figure out where you can send them to for other supports, or what else the community has to offer, or how did our other partners overcome the barrier you're experiencing. It's that kind of collaboration meeting. So this link is just me asking you a few questions to understand what topics do you want to address, and if you do you need any support to attend and collaborate with everybody, and also which meeting environment works best for you. There's been a huge push for in-person meetings within the deaf and hard of hearing community, but then also sometimes our friends are saying that we're okay with hybrid and remote. Regardless of the format we use, your input's important because we will have interpreters presented, and we will be able to access you however it is that you need and require that access. So yeah, if you were interested in coming to a quarterly collaboration as a vendor, then please fill out the survey. Let us know by answering the questions, and we will support you in every way that we can. Let me back up. We are the only regional center that is actively serving in the coordination role of things, the vendors who serve the deaf and hard of hearing. And what I mean by that is we have been notified by our vendors that we are the only regional center giving them a platform to talk on. Okay, we are the only regional center saying, hey, if you are deaf or hard of hearing as an agency or you serve those clients, come out and let's have a conversation. And that's huge for our regional center. And so I want us to continue to be the model, and I would like for us to make great things happen. So, but a little bit of, I guess, a peek into what's to come after this collaboration survey and these quarterly meetings. We're also going to have more vendor forums at least twice a year. It might increase up to 4 times. And we are adjusting that as a team right now. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, feedback, etc., please let me know, and we can go from there.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you for your comments, especially as it relates to the role that, Michael as the deaf and hard of hearing specialist, you as our community services specialist that's really able to focus on a lot of these supports for our service providers. I think it's going to be very impactful. I know we certainly make a place for it at our weekly coffee with community services, but it's important to us. And again, people keep logging in every week to hear about this and show interest, and we really want to support this. We've had a long history of providing services to the deaf that have developmental disabilities in our catchment area, but there's a lot that can be done to provide more supports to you as providers to expand services. And we're really bought in as a regional center. This is what we're interested in doing. So you're going to keep hearing more about it, and we're going to create these opportunities. And I hope we get to do them in person, Melinda, just because it is like, even yesterday, coming to our provider advisory committee meeting and being able to talk with a bunch of our providers and hang out with them a little bit after the meeting, like it's just nice being in person around some of you when we're talking about these things. And I think it also kind of helps sometimes in opening up and sharing best practices when you've got people like right there in the room with you that you can kind of see their interactions. So all that being said, thank you so much for all of the work as it relates to this. I am going to throw it over to Ms. Jordan Eller, who I believe, did I make you a co-host, Jordan? If not, I certainly shall.
I will attempt to share now and that will tell me.
Bam. There you go.
Okay, perfect. All right. All right, folks, let me get my share screen here for you. And I'm actually sorry, just one second. It changes my view. And I first want to give you guys the survey link so that you can, everybody who's on today can complete our CRDP survey. So let me get into that now. Okay. So we are
Well,
excited.
Jordan, are we checking back into the results at 11:55 to see how many people have done it? I feel like we should.
Okay, I can do that for you. I can do that for you. So you guys, so it's that time of year again, right? Where we're reaching out to all of our stakeholders, right? Clients, families, everybody here on screen, whether you're a vendor or a regional center employee, and a lot of community members, right? Board members, all of the stakeholders that could be interested in enhancing our service system. So the Department of, we're required to provide our Community Resource Development Plan priorities to DDS by August 12th. And so in doing that, they have specific development goals for the Community Resource Development Plan, right? Really looking at enhancing services that we can use to be responsive to the changing needs of our clients and really expanding the capacity of services, right, that are designed to meet those challenging needs. And so the first goal is to develop services that are person-centered, specialized, and represent cultural and linguistic diversity throughout the regional center catchment area. Goal number 2, develop systems to ensure that quality services and supports in the least restrictive environment are provided to the individuals in the community. And then goal number 3 is to expand the availability, accessibility, and the types of supports and services to meet the current and future needs of individuals and families. And so a lot of this too really goes back to the history of, right, we had people who were in a lot of state operated facilities and locked developmental centers, and that used to be called the Community Resource Development Plan, right? So that part really focuses on bringing individuals out of secured setting, out of state operated facilities back into our local communities. So that's always a goal. And then, you know, in regards to the Community Resource Development Plan, right, we want to help prevent individuals from going to that locked setting and really enhancing, right, the services and supports for all of our clients that are in the community. Because as we know, developmental centers have closed, right, except for Porterville Developmental Center, and that developmental center is only eligible, placement for is only eligible for people who've been found incompetent to stand trial. So really want to focus on our community resource development. Now, we have sent out a survey, right? It went out on MailChimp to all of our stakeholders that we have your guys' email address. So you can look for that in your email from July 5th, but it's also here on our website. I put the link in. It's a quick survey, just indicating your top 3 priorities.
Open up the survey. Let's see how quick it is, Jordan.
Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
We sure can.
Okay, so to get to the next one, I'll just fill out some information here to get it rolling. In regards to what is specifically required for the survey, only things that have this little red italic. So to be speedy at the moment, I will get this clicked so you guys can see the next section. So in regards to this, you would simply click, right, which are your top 3 priorities, right? So I'll be honest, for me, housing is always a big one. Mental crisis support services, and let's go ahead and do services for the deaf of the hard of hearing. Now, there's always going to be an other category because if there's something that we haven't listed, right, the items that we've listed here are some of DDS's priorities. We also know that our stakeholders have needs for things that might not be a DDS priority. So we really like to list them all because we really want to hear back from our community. So after you click your priorities, you could select 1 if you want, but you click 3, you go to next. Now, this provides you an opportunity. It's optional, right? You can see right here, it's optional. If you want to provide more details, for example, for housing, is that multifamily housing that you are maybe thinking about? Is it accessory dwelling units, right? What kind might that be? Another example would be,
And Carol may remember this from a few years ago, the discussion that we had where everyone put down that they wanted SLS, and it really wasn't necessarily that we needed 10 more SLS agencies. We really needed housing for those people that were in SLS, because the issue was people could not initiate the SLS fast enough because of the housing challenges. And so for all of you providers, and again, this should just take a moment of your time, but your
Mhm.
feedback is so important about how you feel like we should be directing these types of funds. You
Mhm.
guys know about all those gaps in services that exist for the clients that you support. And so if you could just take some time and just drop us a few ideas in here, we would
Mhm.
really love to be able to have your feedback as the kind of the boots on the ground folks that are
Mhm.
interacting day in and day out with our clients, and again, know where those gaps are, where we might want to put some additional funding.
Absolutely. So after this optional portion, there's just two additional questions. One is we always want to kind of know about if you guys have any barriers accessing generic resource for our clients and families. So is there a generic resource that an individual has tried or attempted, but that the individual was denied access to or had a difficult time accessing that? And then we also just have a general question. What regional centered vendor service have you tried or attempted but were unable to get? So that might be an undermet need, right? So, and then you just submit it. So it's pretty short. We are having our community meeting to discuss the results of that on July 19th, next Friday, from 11 to 12. And
And if
in
you have the
regards,
link, and if you have the link for this meeting, is it the same link?
I can copy and paste it. No, so because Coffee with
Okay.
Community Services is a vendor
Oh,
meeting.
you're right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, we've created a new link and I'll just put it right here in the chat in case you guys want to
Don't
just
mind.
copy.
Yeah, we would really love for you as providers to log in next week.
Mhm.
Some may have seen that the cancellation just went out for the meeting for those of you that have somehow
Mhm.
got it forwarded to you from my email address from 2+ years ago when we first made the Outlook invite for this meeting. But yeah, so next week will be just solely that, and we will offer opportunities to have you guys ask questions and things like that. You know, we recorded it last year, to my recollection, Jordan.
We did, John.
But
Mhm.
we didn't really use the recording for, I mean, just to review on our own purposes, but not, I mean, not really necessary to post it per se. But anyways,
Yeah.
all that being said, it would be great to have you all attend. Please at least fill out the survey real quickly.
Mhm.
And if you have the ability to join us next Friday, that would be fantastic at 11.
Yes. And so the survey, like John said, it does close this Sunday at 10 so that my staff and I can diligently start looking at all the data, right? So that we can share that with everybody on Friday. And should you also want to see this information, it's on our events calendar. So I'll plop that link in there as well if you guys want to check out those DDS priorities again, but really hope to see how many people we got on right now, Josh? 84. I hope to see 84 surveys completed by this afternoon. It would only take a few minutes after
Is
call.
there, I mean, we've got at least 15 to 20 regional center staff that are logged in
Yes.
here as well. There's no
Yes.
reason why any regional center staff wouldn't
That's
be able to
correct.
fill it out, click that they are a regional center employee on the survey, and then give us that information as well. So we have needs assessments and things, but this is a very prescribed process that the department requires us to follow, and we have to be very transparent with the information that goes out to you all about giving us the information for the surveys. So Jordan, I'm going to share my screen real quickly with our events
Okay, cool.
calendar since you brought it up, and then maybe you can help folks see where.
That was the one I was just sharing, John.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Okay. Oh, good. So it's right. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's right on the events calendar here for folks, and we want to encourage everyone to get in there, fill in the surveys, and
Mhm. And I've got the Zoom link in the chat if people just want to copy and paste that into their Outlook calendars now. And we also have the survey right there. And then I put the link to that events calendar right there on the chat as well.
perfect. Any questions that folks have about so again, it was a transition. We used to have a big old pot of money that we would move people out of the institutions with, called the Community Placement Plan. We still have the Community Placement Plan funds, but then they've shifted a lot of the funding to as Jordan said, the Community Resource Development Plan, which is really not with a mindset of deinstitutionalizing people, but rather filling those gaps and keeping people from having to end up in institutional type settings. Because you can see some of the things that are on there, things like substance use disorder treatment, things like additional behavioral supports, psychiatric supports, etc. A lot of these things, these are not, maybe typical care homes, typical day programs and things like that. But specialized services for clients in some of these other areas can really make the difference in people living a much less restrictive environment that they're in. So thank you very much, Jordan, for that, and for the whole team. Let's see. I know I see Christy right in my field of view and Courtney, but I don't know who else is around. But you know, Dan, Dee Dee, Christy, Courtney, they're all going to be working hard on this.
And John, I did take a peek. It looks like we approximately have almost 50 surveys so far completed. So keep them coming.
Well, hey, we'll just check in one more time before we finish our meeting today. And see
Okay,
what-
that sounds good.
But I really appreciate you guys. I do want to do a little poll in the chat before I move on to my next topic. So Scott, we'll do HCBS next, but we don't talk a lot about the self-determination program in these meetings, and I feel like we need to kind of at least create a little bit more of a space in these meetings for you guys to ask questions or answer questions. So I guess what I'm looking for in the chat is if you're a service provider and you're currently serving people through the self-determination program, would you mind putting that in the chat? Because I really would like to know that we are putting information out there to the correct groups. And so if you wouldn't mind in the chat, if you can just say, you know, the name of your organization and if you serve people in the self-determination program, I think that would be really helpful with us. We know we have some upcoming webinars. Again, I see Jennifer that is on here, and I'm sure she'll be attending some of DDS's webinars that they're putting out as it relates to some of the changes to the self-determination program and some of the new directives. But again, I just kind of wanted to see in the chat if we've got folks that are serving folks at SDP. And for those of you that aren't serving folks in SDP, I'm wondering if anyone would want to just give us some feedback, whether or not you'd like to see more discussions about the self-determination program during this weekly meeting. We give you a lot of updates on lots of different things, but we don't always focus on the self-determination program updates. And I see that we're starting to get some things in chat that we do have a number of different agencies that are serving folks through SDP. And I think demystifying it maybe a little bit for those that aren't serving people in SDP might be helpful too. So I'll work that out with Faye and Jennifer, and maybe we can kind of figure out like the biggest topics related to SDP that we might want to share with our service providers, at least in this meeting. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. But thank you guys for indulging me. I just kind of was always looking at making sure that the content that we provide you in these meetings is what you're looking for. So. All right. With that on the calendar, you see a bunch of upcoming things that are happening here. We got vendor forums upcoming. We've got we have our community meetings that we are going to be doing as well on a quarterly basis that are coming up. So just to really encourage folks, please take a look at our events calendar. What I will say as it relates to our events calendar is that obviously, you know, things like the CRDP survey and things like that are very important. The vendor forums that we put on there, you know, we have detailed information in there. We set out a bunch of those dates with the hope also. Well, we want to have regular vendor forums with you anyways, but we were hoping we would also have the information from the department about your service codes to be able to share with you guys. So for example, like if I was a day program vendor and I knew that I was we have an adult and day program vendor forum like on September 3rd, like I would love it, folks, if I had, for example, the new guidance for service code 055 from the department. But we don't yet. And we don't know that these dates that we have are going to align. So it may well be that we're scheduling kind of additional vendor forums for some of you across your service codes once we hear that the department has released all of the guidance that we need. I saw your hand go up and go down, Eric. Any question there?
It was actually an SDP question, so I was just
Oh,
gonna
well
say
then,
we-
sorry, I glanced over SDP. We can go back to SDP.
Well, I hate to interrupt you, so I took my hand down. I was gonna say I have an SDP question when you have time in the chat, but
All right, that was all I had because I'm done with the events calendar. I just want to let folks know that as they were looking at the events calendar, and as we have a bunch of vendor forums coming up, we don't have that written guidance yet, and so there may be. We don't want to not have vendor forums. We want to have an opportunity to make sure that we're regularly meeting with you. It just may not align with the directives coming out related to your service codes. I think SLS is like the first one coming up. It's coming up pretty soon. I think there's an early start as well. And so we're still just, again, waiting for that guidance. Eric, yes, about self-determination program, please.
yeah, we started a SDP like advisory group a while ago. And I remember I participated, I think it got moved around a bit. And I remember in the early days feeling like that was a great opportunity to meet, kind of combine the groups that are in SDP, regional center folks, folks that are participating in the program, going through challenges, providers, and we had more questions and answers, but it's just sort of nice to kind of connect. And I feel like that's gone away, or at least I'm not participating or inviting in that. Maybe it still exists. And I've been doing a lot more with SDP with like some statewide advocates. I'm meeting with some folks from Southern California. I'm starting to like get re-engaged with it and look at some best practices outside of the Alta area because I need some help to figure out the next step. So I'm doing it on my own again, but does that exist? Is that what happened with that? Is that a value?
Jennifer Bloom has her hand up, and she is the best
Okay,
expert
go,
we got
Jennifer.
online right now.
Well, I don't know if I'm the best, but I know Kenesha Hurd is here too, and she is our newest Associate Client Services Director who is now overseeing SDP. But I'll speak to the history, Eric, and what I think you might be referring to. So you're right. Back in the early days of SDP, we had a small work group of providers and parents, advocates like Karen Mulvaney, for example. She was very active, and a few of us from the regional center. And our goal was to present, and we did present a couple of times to this group, I believe, during coffee, just going over what SDP means for providers and what providers should know about SDP. And wow, I think a lot has evolved since then. And that, you're right, that group has ended. However, there is another group. We have our Self-Determination Advisory Committee meetings. Those occur regularly every other month for the most part. So we just met this month in July, this week. Our next meeting is in September. And those are great meetings just to receive updates, to be informed. Every regional center has to have they call it the local volunteer advisory committee. We call ours the Self-Determination Advisory Committee. I think it's more, it helps us understand who's at the table. And the committee is composed of self-advocates, providers, family resource centers, and ACRC staff is there as well. We provide updates, we do some troubleshooting. So all of our providers are welcome to attend the SDAC meetings, and I can put that link in the chat when I'm done here. But it might be good to think about how we want to engage providers more directly.
Yeah, maybe you and I can talk about that, and we can figure out maybe whether we fold it into some part of the SDAC or something. But it's going to keep getting, more and more and more utilization. And I think
maybe once a month at Coffee with CSS, we could do an SDP blurb.
like a corner. Yeah, would that be cool? Like maybe a little. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That was. I think that would be helpful. So we can
get involved a little bit there and see if I can. Yeah, I'd be interested. Thank you.
Super. Thanks for asking the question.
And Eric, I will just say there's a lot of work to be done statewide. I think Jennifer and Kenesha will let you know too, and many of our staff that have had the self-determination cases, that there's a lot of work to be done statewide, advocacy wise and operationalizing and things like that. So appreciate your involvement there as well. So again, bringing back updates to our local community from any of your work that you're doing there would, I think, also be appreciated, Eric. Any of the statewide information that you have. Awesome. I was just looking back. My goodness, we've been doing these meetings since November of 2021. Wow. I'm trying to figure out how long ago it's been. That being said, there are hundreds of these videos on YouTube. We don't post the whole list on our Facebook page anymore, on our website, but you guys can go to YouTube if you're ever looking for the recordings of these as well, because they all get recorded. All right. Let's see here. Scott, how are we doing on HCBS? Are we making our way towards a successful completion here?
We are. We've got 400 out of 511 sites that have been visited with initial visits. 90% of them now are initially compliant. So we were holding strong at about 82%. That number has skyrocketed. People are really getting into the remediation piece of this and making changes as needed. We're looking at the end date of, I believe it's August 25th for our last visits. So if you haven't been visited yet by HCBS, this is the last month and a half or so. And we'll be coming out. All of the notifications have been sent out for August. So the end is near.
Again,
First row.
I just want to speak to the appreciation for our service providers in that being able to go out there and get these things fixed during the visit while we are out there allows us to accomplish our tasks. So, in the time frame that DDS has set out for us, and I just, it's a lot of work for our HCBS specialists that are out there doing this and doing the reviews. Alejandra, you got to go out, I think, on one of these reviews. They work pretty hard, don't they, the HCBS specialists? So,
It was nice.
and you got to go visit one of the programs and see one of the
The newest locations. Yeah. And that, yeah.
So again, I don't know. I walk by the conference room where Kylie and everyone else sits, and everyone seems like they're happy, and things are going as good as possible for us to hit our completion by the DDS time frames. So I just want to acknowledge all of your hard work here for our Alta staff that are doing this, and all of the service providers that are implementing this on such crazy time frames. Especially since, for those of you that have been service providers, have known that this has been coming for a decade. So this is not like some new type of thing that we're just learning about. It's just how long it took for the operationalizing of it to get expressed to the regional centers, and then us all trying to get our resources to get it done. So again, excellent work, and certainly want to acknowledge you guys. Judy Zhang, I thought I saw you on there. We're gonna throw it over to you from Judy from On My Own to talk about respite services, I believe, for our service provider spotlight. Thank you, Jason. As always, Jason Scantleberry, I believe, Jason, right? Or you're still doing it, right? Yep, I see Michelle shaking her head. So after Judy gets done, we're gonna make sure that we've got Jason's email there in the chat if any of you would also like to be spotlighted for this. Judy, go ahead, please.
Okay. Well, hi, John. Thank you, Jason, for adding me. So I am the On My Own in-home respite facilitator. I manage the respite department. I'm going to send in the chat just our link for our referral. So the service coordinator, when you guys are thinking and working with families and clients who needs in-home respite support, we do agency respite. You guys could go on our website and submit referrals that way. Just to talk a little bit about what we do in our respite department. We service age children 6 years up to adult and elderly. The services are rendered inside the homes, and then we can work with regularly scheduled or intermittent schedules. I work with the families every week to every month to every quarter to build the schedules that the family needs. If there's a need for staff in the regions that the clients need support in, let's say in the Folsom area, we don't have a great pool of staff in that area, but if we get referrals in that area, I would let the service coordinator know, give me 2 weeks to onboard staff in that region, put out applications for applicants to pull in people to service in that area. The support that we provide for in-home respite for clients, we let the families know when I do the referral assessment with them over the phone. I let them know that scheduling is to be 1 week in advance with us, and case by case, our emergency situation with family needs emergency staffing. I myself make myself available to go in and support the clients on shift, because as we start the assessment, I become the first staff to work in shifts with those clients, and then I train my staff on shift. Families are to give up to 48 hours notice to cancel a shift if possible. The things that we do with our clients is we play games, we supervise, we can support with light exercise, grooming, supervision, toileting support, preparing light meals. We don't do transportation unless it's approved by the IPP team, the regional center, and the management team at On My Own. And the family is also on board for us to be able to transport the client. We don't provide medical care support from imaging, and then we don't do sibling care, just so the are where we don't do sibling care. If the clients are regional center clients, we ask for referrals from the regional center, and all of our clients are through the regional center. What is it? During the assessment, the referral comes from the service coordinator. I reach out within that first week to 2 weeks to plan a meeting with the family. I do a phone intake anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour to talk to the family about the service, to gather information about the support, and then we schedule our first meet and greet. When we go to a meet and greet, myself or Michelle Ramirez, the CEO, out on my own, or Mary McLeod, the program director, we go and meet the families, and we kind of do our little intake assessment with the families. If we feel that the client's a fit, then we could support, or if the client feels that they want us to support, we reach out to the service coordinator and we ask for an authorization for POS to service. And while the POS is, we're waiting for the POS to find staffing to go out there, I go in and I start working with the families to do a individualized service plan with the families, to learn about their routine, the support needed, and then I learn about the family and the client. And once I get staff hired, then the staff goes in and overlap with me for a few days across a few weeks. And then when the family is comfortable with the staff working with their child or their family member, then I check in and monitor and do visits. And that's our respite department. I included in the chat the referral link. I'm not really sure how to share the screen. Um, Let me see.
I would
Let me-
say, let's see, I think you should be able to share, but your, we'll see if your internet will support it.
There's like a little share screen button here.
Well, can you put, well, we do have a few more announcements that we need to get to before the end of our meeting. Are you able to put what you want to share into the chat? Like a
Yeah,
link
so
to it?
I'll just share the link in there so then you guys could go through the link and look at our website.
Excellent.
Thank you.
That was excellent. Thank you so much. Please reach out to Jason Scansel-Berry if you are interested in doing a spotlight. Again, especially if it's a service that is a new service that we're not familiar with, or if it's a service that you've had for quite some time and you're interested in sharing about it, we would love to provide you that platform. I want to touch on a final and I feel very important discussion that we had yesterday at our provider advisory committee meeting, which was related to the service provider directory, the rate study implementation. And so what I don't necessarily have anything that I can share my screen with, other than I can go to DDS's website and make sure that you know where that information is. So I'm going to share my screen, and that's not DDS's website, that's our website. I'm going to drop this one in the chat for you too, because it's very time limited. Joseph Wilson from Resources for Independent Living came to our client advisory committee. And so for local people, there's going to be a community conversation about living with a disability in Sacramento County. And so if any of you want to participate in that, I just want to encourage you to do so. So I'm going to drop that in the chat. And then I'm going to get into the service provider directory. So for those that did not attend here we go. Service provider directory. For those that did not attend the provider advisory committee meeting, Lori Benalis gave a report about the service provider directory. Lori and I felt like it was important for her to give that because it's a very new information that we've all been waiting for. We were able to share. So the provider directory, we have learned, is going to be participation. The wording that the department used is that the participation in the provider directory by October 1st of 2024 is the only measure for the quality incentive portion of the rate model's full rate starting on January 1st. So community services specialists, we're all going to be working on updating people's rates for January 1st. And now we know that in order to check the box that we have as to whether or not someone gets their quality incentive or not, that all they must do now is participate in the provider directory And then they will be able to get that check mark, and then that allows them to get the last 10% of the full rate study implementation rate. If a vendor doesn't do that, they will get 90% of their rate, which will not be, many providers would be very unhappy to lose 10% off of a rate, especially as was mentioned yesterday at our provider advisory committee. Not everyone's seeing big rate increases as it relates to the rate study implementation. Some are looking at their rates going down because of the rate study implementation. And that's what we call, and we've been calling, the hold harmless phase of this. So let me just kind of clarify what we've learned, what's new. I know we update you guys every single week on this. So we still, and I mentioned it earlier, we still do not have the guidance from the department that gives us clear indications of what each service code is going to look like, what the different services are going to be defined as. So we're waiting on those directives. We're still waiting on the guidance on how we're going to be transitioning the vendorizations over from their current, how they exist right now, to the new service codes that are going to be in effect on January 1st. So we're awaiting that guidance, but the guidance that we did receive, which is new, and we've been waiting for this for a year and a half, is what is it going to take to get my 10% so I can get my full rate study amount? And now we know it's participation in the provider directory by October 1st. If you participated in the by October 1st, it would make sense to me, then that would give regional centers a few months to be able to do our calculations to make sure that your rates are updated for January 1. And then when you do your billing in February, you should see new rates. We'll see what happens between now and then, how quickly the guidance comes out from the department. We're told that the guidance has been written and that they were waiting for the dates. We know that for some service codes, like for example, we talked about transportation yesterday, there is some guidance. There's still some back and forth with our service providers that we're hoping can occur as well before the things get finalized too. We know that at least for transportation, we are switching from a per trip rate as outlined in the rate study to a mileage rate, which is going to be very different for some folks. And so again, we're waiting on that final information from the department as well. Any questions about this? Where there's going to be a lot more information that's coming out to you all. The department is engaging right now with a contractor that's going to be supporting this initial data collection. And then, and we've talked about this previously, after that, then when the changes come into the regional center, our vendor coordinators will be going through anything that is submitted by service providers and reviewing it. So for example, if you say you're going to have a change of address, we probably don't want you just changing your address. We need to verify it, make sure you're not a licensed program, etc. So more guidance to come, but the big news that we got is about the October 1st. Additionally, I'm going to put the name into the chat real quick before I ask Jordan to give me an update on our numbers to see if anyone else filled out the survey, because it is 11:55. And let's see, I'm going to go to the chat. I'm going to drop this in here real quick. Protiviti is the name. I don't know how they're going to be and exactly when they're going to be reaching out. They did indicate that the activities are going to be beginning in July and continuing into August for the initial data collection. And then from there, I believe it'll turn over to you all as providers to participate in the provider directory. I don't know what that means. I have a feeling the department wrote that pretty broadly for a reason to the regional centers. This is from a correspondence that was sent from Carla Castañeda, and it says that it is addressed to regional center and service provider staff for your partnership, but I don't believe the department has updated their website with this information yet. So Lori said it yesterday, so I'm repeating it today, is that in order to get the 10%, the only requirement the department is going to put out there is your participation in the provider directory. I'm hoping it's very easy for you all. I'm hoping it's like you just have to register and verify a couple things. Jordan, how we doing? Did we get any more?
Yes, sir. We are at 83.
Bang. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
That
Yes,
was
that's
30,
cool.
30 more in 20 minutes. Right on, folks. Thank
Right.
you so much. Again, representation is important. It is important for you as providers to let us know what you think about the gaps in our services and the ways in which we can use specialized funding for folks. So you have until Eric Champa was the one that reminded me that it closes on surveys on Sunday. So
Sunday,
we have to, at the PAC yesterday. So we really have to push this, and hopefully we get it. I think we've got as many responses as we got last year already, but hopefully we get many more, because Dan and Dee Dee and Christy and Courtney love reading long narratives that people put in too. So please feel free to drop those in there on the second page of the survey. Anything else, Jordan, on that? I think we're good, right?
No, we're good.
All right. And I know we've got Michelle Johnson and Jennifer. Do we have anything else big and shaking on the client services world? I know we talked about our August 7th community meeting that's coming up. Events calendar. Anything else?
I think that was a very thorough meeting, John,
Right on. Okay, folks.
as always.
I hope everyone has a great weekend. We are at sun. I think we're on the surface of the sun today, still for another day, and tomorrow. And we will remember that we need our our sun and our block when we are out there, because I did not have it yesterday. If you can see how red my face is. Bye, folks. Have a great rest of your day. Really appreciate you all. Take care.
Bye-bye.